Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang. And in China, just in the last couple of days, something really, really big is happening. Hundreds of thousands of house or condo buyers stop paying their mortgage. And this thing is snowballing like there's no end. So in just 2 short days, every 12 hours, it's a double or triples the scale of such a stop payment. And now has caught the attention of like a Wall Street Journal and international media. In China, it's becoming a very, very acute issue. The government is closely looking at. All right, so what happened? We talked about this loss of the savings on Monday in the local banks in the Henan province, and you guys are very concerned about what is the update there. So before we see any end of that, this much bigger issue is happening, which is the main topic of today. So before we dive into that, let's talk about the Biden's visit to Mideast. Okay, earlier today, President Joe Biden landed in Saudi Arabia after visiting Israel. Okay, and Biden actually, before he left U.S., he published an opinion on the Washington Post about 1 week ago, explaining why he wants to visit the Mideast. Well, to summarize it, one reason he said is the energy resources are vital. Its energy resources are vital for mitigating the impact on global supplies of Russia's war in Ukraine. And to translate that, well, to have the Saudi Arabia and the Middle East countries, the OPEC, okay, to help mitigate the high inflation that is happening in our country. And the second one is it wants Saudi Arabia to help to help the countries, Arabian countries in the Middle East, to come together with Israel through diplomacy and cooperation. Okay, Biden also said this. He said that travel will also be a small symbol of the budding relations and the steps towards normalization between Israel and the Arab world. Okay. Well, Biden did not compliment the former President Trump for his groundbreaking work on the Abraham Accords, which involved the 3 Arab nations establishing normal relationship with Israel. But his visit this time will certainly show that he's following Trump's steps, which does seem to make sense. So as for how Trump was able to reach the Abraham Accord, the risk of Iran serves as a key common ground for most Arabian countries. Israel saw Iran as an enemy bent on destroy itself, while the Saudi Arabia and a country like Saudi Arabia saw Iran's Shiite regime as a threat to its Sunnite ruling. Other countries like the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain and Morocco share the same feeling. So that's why Trump was able to identify that as the common ground and pushed very proactively to reach the Abraham Accords. So comparatively, President Joe Biden did not quite share the same point of view earlier on, and he has been rather critical of Trump's foreign policy on the Middle East. Biden is also much more friendly with Iran, as he believed that treating Iran nicely then harshly would generate a positive result better. However, the oil shortage and the consequential high inflation in the U.S. pushed President Biden to re-engage that region. And my opinion is that after he found that when he has to do that, he seems to find the common ground identified by President Trump was a good one, if not the only one, for the U.S., Israel, and Saudi Arabia, and other Arab countries. So he's carrying Trump's baton and continue the track that Trump created. So as for the oil problems, why didn't President Biden open up Keystone Pipeline and our federal land for more drilling? But rather go to Saudi Arabia to ask for more oil production by the OPEC. And so what do you think? I want to stop here a little bit. So we talked about such before, right? It doesn't make sense. If Biden really want to resolve this issue, the better just ask a U.S. oil driller to work harder and give them more convenient, more leeway, more licenses, more land for them to dig out better, more oil, rather than flying to the Middle East and talk to Saudi Arabia, which he happened to, because his critical attitude towards their human rights and other things, so they are not happy with him. So he's this. You can say it's a difficult trip. He's doing an uphill effort, taking uphill effort to try to mend the relationship between the Saudi Arabia and the U.S. and Israel. Why did he do that? Actually, a few days ago, I talked to a former high-level officials of the Trump administration, and he revealed this to me. And I just want to share this with you because it does surprise me, and I want to relate that to you and see how you think, okay? And while you are listening to this, watching this, I just want to see your comment because I do want to know that how you think about that. And I was guessing that one reason is that Biden doesn't really like, the fossil fuel. He sees this opportunity to the country to switch over to the green energy. And that's why he want to do that. But in that case, why did he want to go to Saudi Arabia to do that? Okay, that's the same fossil oil, right? And so I'm looking at my screen, okay? I just try to see what's your opinion, possible opinion over there, because this is a discussion here. And okay, and then Larry Doley, you said Biden knows that they will say no. He can say, well, I tried. Okay, that could be one reason. And okay, the U.S. official, I cannot reveal his name, okay, but I can say about that it's true. And he said most oil drilling happen in the red states. And the current administration is a Democratic Party administration. They don't like them to do that more, okay? So it's out of a political reason. I don't know whether what he said is true, but it just got me thinking and it made me feel sad. If that's the case, okay, this is the same nation. So I happen to be writing some show, the script for some show for the earlier history of the U.S. At that time, President Jefferson, he's the lead party leader of the Democratic Republican Party back then, right? And Hamilton was the party leader for the Federalist Party. And there was this early on the first party system, and then later there was this second party system. So in this country, we have this party system, competing parties very early on, almost like 80 years after Washington's time in the White House. At that time, it's not a White House, when he was serving as the president. So it is almost as old as our republic. However, early on, President Thomas Jefferson and the president like Samuel Adams, and then not Samuel Adams, I'm sorry, John Adams, and also the President Madison, and so on and so forth. When they became president, they are the president of the country. They are not the president of their party. All right, so that official told me that because of the red state versus blue state, so they don't want to drill oil here in the red state because that would economically would benefit them. So his opponent, I don't know whether that's true, but if you think about that, it could be logical. Okay, this is one reason. But anyway, in terms of whether Arab nations, Saudi Arabia will answer Biden, that's it remains to be seen. But if Biden also follow Trump's logic and identify the same common ground to unite those countries and Israel and the U.S., which is the threat from Iran, then he could get somewhere. Not completely like a few months ago. He's literally went nowhere, okay, because he does not have clear direction, clear cut. There's a 5 or 6 or even 7 or 9 forces fighting each other all the time in the Middle East. How could it work? And but President Trump, former President Trump, did identify a common ground, and that did work and created Abraham Accord. And now it seems Biden is following his steps. Do you agree? Do you agree with me? I'm just curious. And okay, so And Louis, you said when he goes to Saudi, he's expecting gift, and the Saudis are bailing on the petrodollar. Okay. Yep, I got what I mean. All right, so just let's just have a discussion. If you have your opinion, just write it up there. Why did he go there? He wrote this opinion in the Washington Post. Is it telling the entire truth, or there's some other agenda? It's not convenient for him to, reveal, or how do you see the essential of his going to the Middle East and talking to Saudi Arabia, which he criticized a lot, and which also doesn't like him, a lot at all. So okay, and as you think that over, as you type it up, let's move on. All right, now let's talk about the main topic of today. Okay, what is happening to the wave of stopping the mortgage payment in China? Okay, earlier this Monday, we reported to you that around 500,000 depositors, bank depositors, found that they lost their entire savings in the local banks in Henan province. Henan province is a province in central China. Okay, and you asked about for the update. What the update is, the provincial government said they will guarantee the first 50,000 RMB, equivalent to $8,000 US dollars, and beyond that, he said it all depends. Okay, so indeed they yield a little bit, and providing this $8,000 and a minimum for those depositors. Well, that's good progress. However, before this ends, within just the last 2 days, house buyers of more than 200 housing projects, okay? In China, the housing is not a single family house, okay? It's like a huge building of condos, hundreds of, floors, and just, a cluster of such buildings. So each housing project involved possibly like a 2,000 housing unit, or 3,000 or 5,000 or even more. Okay, so in the last 2 days, more than 200 building projects involving tens of thousands of future house owner, the current house buyer, announced in joint public statements that they have decided to hence stop paying for the mortgage for the house or the condos that they have never been able to move in. So what is going on there? Okay, so basically in China, okay, you buy this for those new condos. You buy those to be built new condos with some down payment, okay, and then apply for a loan for the rest, for the remaining required payment. And then normally the down payment will go into escrow account, and the bank will watch over that, and the developers cannot just casually move it away and move it to other purposes. And then when the developer deliver the house and the buyers move in, then the rest of the loan will be released, and the mortgage payments start happening. However, what happened now is that in China, banks gave the entire loan to the developer before the condos are finished, and then they ask the buyers to start paying for the loan. So how does that sound? Ridiculous, right? You haven't got your house; it's still being built, and then now you have to pay for the mortgage payment. But that has been the way that in China, that how things work. So it was not surprising, but it become a big issue now, and why? So let's ask ourselves why this stop payment happened today. Okay, because the buyer now found that the to be finished condo buildings may never be able to be finished. Okay, why? Because the developers, they're running out of money. They don't have any money. So you ask what about the money in the escrow account? Well, in most cases, they have been moved away and spent elsewhere. This is only one issue. The other issue is this. Okay, the housing bubble burst in the last last 10 months has burst, which causing the developers no longer have the fund, have the cash that they need to finish this to be finished condo, so that the mortgage the loan will be extended, it will be delivered, and the mortgage payment will happen. And now the buyers see themselves in a hopeless situation. Okay, they would never get the finished condos, and they already throw in their down payment, and they already start paying for the monthly payment without seeing the condos in sight. And then it is not easy to stop payment, okay? Because without the banks agreeing to that, their stop payment means they will hurt their credit badly, same as here in the US. Okay, now the further question. Why are those houses not be able to be finished? This has to do with how the biggest issue, the biggest under the water issue today in China. The housing bubble is about to burst. All right, so for 30 years, China's real estate seems to only be able to go up. If in like a 3,000 RMB square meter, they don't use square foot, okay, square meter house price goes to 100,000, okay, within 15 years. And then in China, for many, many years, it seems the only sure way to make money is just to buy more condos. You have one condo, right? You live in it, but the housing price keeps going up. Just buy 2, buy 3, buy 4. It doesn't matter. It's empty because it's going to grow bigger. The price will grow higher. You can always sell it and get your money back, whether or not that that condo is occupied or generate cash flow. In China, it has been like that. Okay, housing price just keeps going up. Literally, everyone knows this is a bubble, but they still stay in, including the financial expert and the professionals who knew firsthand what would happen eventually. But they still just want to take the ride, just hoping that they are not the people who, finally ended up with the mess. So they just want to take the ride, get off, and then make money along the way, move the money outside of China. So that's real money. Okay, that's pretty much the game. So what happened is about 7 years ago, the Xi Jinping, okay, the general secretary of the party, Xi Jinping started saying that house is for living. House is not for making money. Actually, his statement is not wrong, right? When you just keep buying a house, just hoping that it will make money for you, without disregard of whether it's being used or not, that doesn't make sense, right? But in China, the strange phenomenon is housing always go up. So he called that out, and early last year, he have the government regulation agency issue like 3 red lines. So I will not go detail into what are the red lines. Basically, just limit how much money that developers can borrow to build their housing project. But this is exactly the livelihood of the developers. For 20 years, the real estate developers, they simply borrow money. They borrow money and they build a house, they sell the house, make the profit, then return the money. Okay? And in order to speed up the pace of making money, they borrow more and more money. Okay? And the people are willing to lend money to them because the house always go up, the price is always go up. So ended up they borrow so much money. And they think that as doing this cycling, eventually they're going to get their money back, they're going to pay back the debt. And this 3 red line issued early last year limit how much they can borrow compared to their current asset. So for that reason, suddenly they found they cannot borrow any more money, but they have built up so much debt, they're not being paid back, because how they pay back, they only they count on they borrow more money to pay back this existing debt. But now Xi Jinping made them unable to attract more money. So they have to deal with the debt in their hand. Okay, that's called, in Chinese, we call it 暴雷. Okay, that's the story of the evergreen, which you probably have read in the news. Okay, evergreen is a typical company who lends so much money, always borrow so much money, and then build their housing project, sell that for profit, and then just return the money. Sometimes they don't even return the money. They just keep borrowing, in the hope that eventually they're going to get enough profit because housing price keeps going up to pay them back. So after this thing happened last year, they found they're out of money, but they got enough debt. Okay, their asset is not even worth the debt that they own. So, and this thing propagates throughout, because one matter that happened in the last October, the central government issued this order saying that Evergreen, you have to make at least you deliver the condos that people already pay you for that, already paid. It doesn't make sense, right? If people cannot even get the houses they already paid for, that's going to create a lot of complaint, a lot of anger, and it will threaten the stability of the ruling by the party. Okay, but how do they do that? They do not give money to the developers. They order each provincial government to help making sure Evergreen will finish those condos. Then the local government got nervous. Okay, they said, what does that mean? Okay, it means that I have to bail out Evergreen. So immediately they locked down the escrow account at the Evergreen. Not just that. And for other developers, when there's any doubt, they went in and freeze their escrow account. Okay, because they want to make sure. Now I got this command, this directive from the central government. I need to make sure those condos got delivered. To do that, I need the money. I know money is in those escrow accounts. Let me freeze those escrow accounts first to make sure I can cover my butt. But what happens is this. It completely take away the remaining limited liquidity that those real estate developers have. So that suddenly they were thrown into an even harsher situation where they literally have zero chance to finish those condo buildings because they are completely out of money. They cannot even access the escrow account. In certain sense, this is a man-made crisis because of this arbitrary interference from the central government and from the local government. But that's the way that the economy works in China. Okay, it's not like in the free economy over here. So because of that, the buyers suddenly found, oh boy, they're out of money. They could never finish the building. The building is a mess. My down payment already went in. I have to write checks every month for the mortgage for the house that I could never get. They say enough is enough. I don't care about my credit. That's the last thing I need to care about. I need to stop making payment. So they spread the word around, and then it just spread like a wildfire. As I'm talking to you today, it's still spreading. There's also some other saying that it's Xi Jinping's political enemy was organizing this. It could be true, okay, because in China the political struggle is very fierce. But the issue of the matter of the issue is indeed there. Those buildings could never be finished, and those people who already paid for it could never get it. And to them, stop paying for the mortgage seems to be a logical, things to do. So now, as they don't do that, okay, when they stop paying, the mortgage, who will get hurt? The banks, right? The banks lend the loan. They already lend the loan. They expect the payment to come in, and then they stop paying for that, and the developers cannot return the money because they already used it up. Okay, the developers is in deep water, and then the buyers are no longer paying money. So the bank will run into big trouble. So it's a cascading, a domino scenario going forward. We don't know what will happen. Okay, there's a couple of things, possible things that could happen. First, government coming in and just crack down. For those people who dare to sign up on this joint statement, folks in China, issue joint statement raising hell or raising your complaint against the government is a crime. You could go to jail for that. This is not freedom of speech. It's a crime, okay? That's the first thing. Okay, they could come in and saying that, dare you stop payment. You have to pay, keep paying, otherwise we're gonna throw you into jail. This is one way for them to do this. The second way, then, okay, the central government come in and bail them out, bail people out. And where does central government find the money? Very simple, they print the money. Then they're gonna spread the risk across the nation and incur a new round of inflation. So those are the only two ways that this could have ended up with. And the whole country, as a matter of fact, is holding its breath. Now in China, it's like a fire. It's burning through town after town. across those building projects. And after these 30 years, if you ever heard of Gordon Chang was saying that the coming collapse of China, he said that almost like 15 years ago, it never happened. And sometimes people ridicule him. But what I want to say, he was saying the truth. It's just nobody knows the bubble could last for this long. But it is still a bubble. No matter how long it lasts, it's still a bubble, and it will burst. And we are possibly looking at the timing of its bursting, finally bursting now. Okay, that's the report of Wei for you today. And of course, we're going to follow the story and then bring you more update. As I said, the whole China is holding its breath on it. The world, should have a vested interest in how this crisis would develop into. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I want to know that how you think of today's content. And whether you have your questions. If so, maybe I can talk about that a little bit. And Louis wrote that I hope all the Chinese stop paying on their real estate or investment. The sooner they crash the system, the sooner we can kick off the party for the rest of the world. Well said. Yeah, this is indeed the wish of many, many people. And now it's not like they have the courage to do this. They found themselves in the situation that they have to do this. And that's what they are doing. Okay. All right, that's the two pieces of news that I'll bring you today and my analysis. And hope you like it. And just write up your comment, okay, whatever it is. And I want to learn from that, learn from you. Okay, today is the Friday, and have a great rest of the night, and have a great weekend. And have a relaxed one. So I will come back to you next Monday. Okay, hang on. Let me just in the Cashew wrote that going to Saudi Arabia is a slap in Joe's face. He called the crown princess a murderer and a pariah. And how can you go there to face the murder, grandpa? Yeah, he had to because of the inflation, right? And he needed the inflation to come down. So that's I hope that he found that Trump's approach does make sense. So he got a viable path. Otherwise, he couldn't. Even if he goes there, he goes nowhere, right? So, all right. Thank you for staying with us tonight. I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.